And it's really about creating and having personal freedom from connecting with yourself and rebuilding that relationship rather than ignoring it and outsourcing your wisdom, your worth, or decisions, and actually being the safest person to lead your own life.
Welcome back to the Push Pause to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Rodersheimer. On this podcast, we explore health from the inside out, starting with the foundations, connection, and the conditions that allow the body to heal. Today's very special guest is Katie Ruffino. She is a physician assistant, a functional medicine practitioner, health and life coach, and the founder of Sunnyside KT. After years of studying regenerative and functional medicine, Katie's work has evolved to help women reconnect with their intuition and trust themselves through mindset work, neuro-linguistic programming, and holistic healing. She believes true healing happens when our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions are in alignment, allowing us to reconnect with our authentic selves. Today, she's joining us to talk about why so many women have lost trust in their own bodies and how we can begin finding our way back. That sounds like a great topic. Hi, Katie. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Yes. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Sure. So, I was thinking about this podcast episode and so excited to have you joining us. And, we both come from the functional medicine background. And we spend a lot of time looking for root causes, but sometimes I really wonder if women start believing the answer is always one more test or one more supplement or something else needed outside of themselves. Would you agree, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that information is helpful and it helps us point us in the right direction. But ultimately, we have to ask ourselves, are we just looking for more confirmation of what we already know? And that can happen through testing, that can happen through going to multiple experts, getting multiple opinions, and just that starts to drown out what our intuition's telling us or what our body is trying to communicate with us, and can also create disconnection in other ways. So it's an important conversation.
Yeah, I love that. And I see, sometimes we do need those things, and we're not saying that they're not helpful or good, but there is a point where coming back and sourcing health from within ourselves can be the thing we really are missing when we think it's that next supplement or the newest gadget or whatever it is. I actually just had a client this morning who she's been searching for a long time for health answers, and now she's working with me and we're making some strides. But she had just gone to another specialist, and we actually had to have the conversation like, what if you just like push pause on doctor's appointments for a little bit, like seeking another opinion and another opinion and another opinion, and let's try to do this work where we reconnect to yourself and to your body. And so sometimes less is more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, as working with patients, sometimes they're looking for more things to do, or what else can I do to optimize my diet or optimize my sleep or my hormones or gut or all these things. And they want to do it all. But oftentimes if they are going and seeking to try to do it all, it can be overwhelming and it can create some just frustration around, it's like setting yourself up for failure if you're putting high expectations on yourself to try to fix and do all these things at once, and then you see it doesn't work and then you get discouraged and like, it must be something else then. But really it's just taking it one step at a time. And sometimes it's removing things from your life, not adding more things. And that can be revealed to somebody through taking space to just be with themselves.
Ooh. Okay, let's talk about that. I'm going off topic now from what we had planned, but let's talk about taking space, because my podcast is called Push Pause to Heal for a reason. Like, take some space, take a pause to reevaluate what, in your mind, what does taking space look like, and can you give us a really maybe bite-sized way to try it if someone's new and like. A lot of space might feel scary. So what would you suggest?
Yeah, I think that it can look different for everybody depending on what they're comfortable with and what how much space they're willing to take. Like you said, it might be overwhelming for one person or the other. But I think it's just you don't have to isolate yourself. You don't have to, get away from society and go hike in the mountains by yourself. There's other risks with that too. But I think that it's just choosing to pause, like you say, and just listen to yourself. Close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and actually connect and notice your sensations. And it doesn't have to be for hours at a time, or you don't have to, prepare yourself to do this. It could literally be in any moment if you just take that moment, close your eyes, tap into your body, and just notice, how is my breathing right now? How are my muscles? Am I feeling tense? Do I feel any sensations in my body? Is my chest tightening? Do I feel pressure? Is my gut feeling bloated, or is it rumbling? And, are my shoulders up to my ears? And, is my jaw tense? Just paying attention to, where am I at right now? How am I feeling right now? And through taking a few deep breaths, can I allow myself to soften and just get back out of that nervous system fight or flight state? Because often when we need that pause most, it's when we're more in our head than we are in our body. So just taking, a couple minutes and just pausing like that, it's amazing what you can discover and realize. And then I think once you're calmer physiologically, then the thinking becomes clearer.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's I love that. And I think the softening, really, that word kind of caught my attention. Like that's we're not so good at that. I know that's hard for me to especially to like, once I have the pause, okay, now can I just kind of turn down the volume on all of that? And it's such a beautiful thing if you can take the time to do it.
Yeah, it takes practice too. Just consistently showing up again and again.
I love that. One of the phrases I see on your website a lot is trust your gut. So I would love to dive into, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So I think often when people hear the word trust your gut, it's like, oh, is it my physical gut that I need to listen to and trust and digestion and things like that? Or is it more like my intuition? And I think it can be both. And so often when someone says, trust your gut, or just follow your intuition, or trust yourself, not everybody actually knows what that means. And so how I see it is, how can you clear out the noise and come back to yourself, honor what's coming up for you, and choose from that place, even if you don't have certainty, even if you don't know what's going to happen, but being okay with the outcome because you know that you're the one that's decided it. And it's really about creating and having personal freedom from connecting with yourself and rebuilding that relationship, rather than ignoring it and outsourcing your wisdom, your worth, or decisions, and actually being the safest person to lead your own life.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I like to ask people to try to be the CEO of their own health. Your body is the smartest doctor in the whole world. It knows so much more than anyone outside of you. So I love that, listening and paying attention to all its wisdom. So good.
It's always communicating.
Yeah. Why do you think so many women have stopped trusting themselves? Like, how do we get? I'm guessing maybe when we're younger, there's more of a ability there, and then somehow we lose that over time. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say that, our unconscious mind and the way that we start to view the world is really developed by the age of 7 years old. And so parental influence, religion, societal norms, culture, media, anything that we're exposed to when we're really young starts to shape how we see the world and also how we view ourselves. And so those unconscious beliefs start to become formed of how we view ourselves and what the meaning that we make of the world around us. And so oftentimes, through all the things that I've mentioned, that women especially have been taught to conform, to, prove their worth, to look a certain way, to act a certain way, or don't act a certain way, or be. And it's all with the premise of fitting in. And humans, we have this nature of wanting to belong. We have evolutionarily, if we belong, we can survive. If we don't belong, if we get exiled, then we might as well not even be here. And so that can be very scary for the nervous system And so there's this deep need to want to fit in and to actually have a belonging and be part of something outside of ourselves. And if at some point you were bullied for, oh, you wore a certain thing at school and someone judged you for that, or you said something and that triggered somebody else and they said, oh, don't say that. As a kid, like, you're like, oh, well, I want to belong, so maybe I did something wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe my preference isn't good or isn't right. And so then starting to shift and shape yourself around the environment. And I've seen this especially for women more than men. I've noticed what men as well can do this. But I think that women who are very sensitive and very energetically and emotionally in tune, or what some might call empathics or empaths, because they're so aware of their environment, how other people are, that being able to pay attention to emotional responses within themselves and within others, and always wanting to keep the peace. And so especially for children whose parents don't know how to emotionally support them or don't know how to handle or nurture them in a safe, loving way, that can be hard. And that child might be confused by their own emotions or what they're experiencing because it's all so new. And so then it can create these habits and these ways of living and the meaning making that comes from that. And that can then continue on into their adulthood. And oftentimes when they're young, they want to protect themselves for safety. And so that means shaping yourself to fit in or to prove your worth or, to get attention. And so often when we grow up, if we forget to retire those beliefs or those programs and remember that, oh, wait, I don't have to hold on to these anymore. Mm-hmm. It's actually now hurting me when before it was helping me, but now it's actually hurting me and it's preventing me from having the life that I want, the experiences, owning who I am, and all the things that come from that, or aligning even with the right people that do accept me for who I am. Mm-hmm. All of that starts to come into play.
That's really powerful. And I think, I've met with a lot of women, and I think for myself, even at times, I'm like, what do I want? Or what do I like? What's actually mine, versus what I've picked up from trying to make everyone else around me happy. And it's something really important, I think, to come back to.
Yeah, it's our life.
Yeah. So is there any way that someone might be able to tell when something is our intuition speaking versus maybe our fear?
Yeah, so I feel like fear specifically tends to come on abruptly. It often is triggered by something externally or a thought that comes in, focusing on the future outcomes or things that could happen, and starting to create that story in the mind to, again, be safe and to prevent harm. And so often that feels like pressure in the chest and some anxiety sensations, maybe rushing around or that nervous system fight or flight mode starts to kick in even more. That's usually more fear-based. Intuition is quieter. Intuition is a subtle, deep knowing, and it doesn't always speak loudly. It's not always trying to get our attention in the same way that fear does. And I feel like intuition is something that, whether we listen to it or not, it's the through line. And if we're not paying attention to it, it'll keep just gently reminding us, just giving us little signs. It's like, hey, no, are you sure? You sure you want to do that? What about this? What about that? And trying to guide us. And it doesn't show up in this, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart type way. That's the fear. And so I think a way that we can, if we're really not sure, if you're like, I really don't know if it's fear or intuition, then work on the fear, work on the anxiety, calm the body. Again, relax, take some deep breaths, do what you know helps and works to calm anxiety and fear. And there's also NLP techniques that I do with my clients to help them to release those negative emotions like fear, hurt, shame, guilt, things like that. Once that's gone, then what's the truth? What's underneath it? That's more intuition in my experience. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Wow. Well, for people who have never heard the term neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, as you were referring to, how would you explain it in simple terms?
Yeah. So NLP in its basis is pretty much just the study of how our brain creates patterns. And our brain learns things, it associates things with each other, and through experiences that we have, like I'd mentioned, we create these beliefs, and that then gets stored. It's in the subconscious mind, and then those beliefs then help to create our thoughts, and our thoughts then are determining our behaviors and how we choose to show up in life or what we choose to do, and then that creates the outcome of our reality. And another kind of way I like to describe this whole process and how NLP works is that we all choose to see reality a certain way. We're all wearing our own pair of glasses, whether it's physical or not. And we have this lens of the world. And that lens is determined by all of the past experiences that we've had. And so I might be looking at this glass of water and I see it from this perspective, but you on the other side see it from this lens, this perspective. Neither one of us are wrong. We're looking at the same thing just from a different perspective. And so what NLP does is basically, if you have this lens on, and if you're choosing to see, let's say, keeping the water glass as an example, is let's just say this represents, a situation in my life that isn't going the way I want it to. If I have a negative belief or a limited belief, such as I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough, I might look at this situation and be like, oh, see, look, it's proving that I'm not good enough. And look, I see this situation as it's negative towards me. It's causing harm. Why is this happening to me? But if you clear off that lens or remove that belief or switch it to something more supportive, such as I am worthy enough, or I am perfect just the way that I am, or I love myself fully, it's like taking the lens off as, oh, well, this thing, that's not meaning anything about me. It's just a thing. Or actually, wow, how is this happening for me so I can learn and grow? So it's really just about shifting your lens of how you view the world. And we can do that through modalities that target the unconscious mind to actually shift those beliefs and then change your behaviors and how you view reality. And you can also describe that as like being at cause versus being at effect, or if you've ever heard victim mentality. I saw that a lot in my patients, unfortunately, is that if you're being at cause, it's why is this happening to me? I'm not in control of my life then at that point. I'm choosing to give my power away to the thing that's happening in my life, or the illness or the sickness or whatever it is I'm experiencing. But if you shift the narrative to being at cause, it's like, how did I create this situation in my life? How is it that I created that I have this illness? Or what is it that I'm not being honest with myself about that's creating dis-ease in my body? Where am I out of alignment? What about my habits? Am I not taking care of myself properly? And then you realize that you're the one in control. You have the power to make the difference. And I think that opens up the door for then true change to happen, true healing to actually start, is that we have to take absolute radical responsibility for ourselves and our life. And so NLP is one tool to use to really realize that you have the power and actually do something about it at that root cause level.
So just for anybody listening, that she's not saying that we blame ourselves, but right. We actually, instead of feeling powerless, which is a very, very terrible place to be, and really hard to find any good to come out of that situation, it's actually reclaiming the power that we do have. Where do we have power over the situation? And I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, but I find it very empowering.
Absolutely, and thank you for mentioning that too, because it isn't about blaming ourselves or shaming or having guilt around our choices in life, but it's more about, like realizing you are in control, you are in the driver's seat. And also, we can't control what happens outside of us. We can't control, like, if a child's parents choose to get divorced, one child might see that as, gosh, this is the worst thing in the world. I will never believe in love. It never works out. Another child might say, oh my God, this is amazing. My parents aren't going to fight anymore. I get now 2 Christmases. Like they're seeing it from a whole different lens. And so
Sure.
it's really less about what happens outside of us. It's more, how do we choose to see it, and how do we choose to respond accordingly, to let it empower us rather than bring us down. And the same thing happens with illness. It's, wow, where am I not honoring myself, like I had mentioned, but also how can I love myself through this too? How can I repair my relationship with my nourishment? Like, how do I take care of myself? And that alone, just shifting from, gosh, what's wrong with my body, to how can I love myself even more to help aid this healing process? That is, I don't know if they've done studies on this, but that alone is very healing, because you're choosing to do it the right way, or out of love, out of fear.
I'm thinking what just came to me is that some thoughts we have are actually inflammatory, and some thoughts are anti-inflammatory, right? And so that's kind of what you're suggesting when we stay in a mentality of like, woe is me, and this is terrible, and like, please have a couple minutes to grieve or to be upset. That's allowed, but eventually when we can shift out of that and say, what can I do? How can I bring love to this? How can I learn from this? How can I grow? Now we're shifting into feelings that are more anti-inflammatory. And as a functional medicine doctor, that's the whole goal. Let's shift the balance from inflammation to lowering that inflammation and allow healing to happen.
Yeah, and we know so much more about how it's not just through what we eat, it's not just through different exercise routines or protocols of supplements that really move the needle of from inflammatory to anti-inflammatory. It's so much deeper, and it's about, even being in healthy relationships, or having a loving, supportive family, skin to skin contact, having a hug, something like that is so nourishing. And how do we give that to ourselves too? And how do we speak to ourselves? Because we know the power of the mind, and what we choose to think and believe creates our reality. And that actually manifests in our physical body as well. And I've noticed that in my health, once I shifted out of that victim mentality, what's wrong with me, I need something to fix me, that guilt, that shame around what am I doing wrong, to, wow, how can I listen? How can I slow down? Or, my body's really tired. How can I honor that today? Maybe I need some rest. Maybe the things that I thought I needed to do today, they can get done tomorrow. My body and my health is more important than that. And that's how you build self-trust as well, is every time you listen to your body instead of ignore it, you're telling yourself that you matter. And you're telling yourself that you can actually pay attention to what your body's communicating to you, honor it, and show up on a consistent basis. That builds that healthy relationship. And like how trust is important with any relationship, it's most important with yourself.
I love that. I love that. It's like putting in the reps of actually listening to yourself. I think so many of my listeners and myself, I've been here for sure. This is a place I struggle, but putting yourself at the bottom of the to-do list, and everybody else's needs come first. And what you're proposing, which I am totally on board with, is let's move ourselves up to the top of the list and start to actually figure out what we need. And then you can help everybody else from a really full cup instead of a very drained state, which is not helpful in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially women who are high performers and overachievers, and maybe have that program of needing to prove ourselves in some way. It's especially important to move ourselves up to that top, because we're capable and we have such loving hearts to care for others, that we need to give that love to ourselves too. And often that gets drowned out. And especially, for moms who are there for their kids. You can't be there for your kid if you're not healthy. So,
right. Yeah, good point. Can you share an example of someone who completely changed their health by changing the story that they were telling themselves?
Yeah, kind of like I started alluding to is, with myself specifically, it's the closest example to me that I can share about this, because I was that person. I was a high performer. I went to school for years, and I knew that what I was doing was maybe good on the surface, or it looked right. And I was doing really well. I was getting good grades, and I was, from what society's standpoint was, oh, I'm quote unquote making it. And I'm, in this amazing job. I'm in helping patients. I'm doing what I thought I loved. And it got to a point where I'm like, I forgot myself along the journey. I've been here trying to prove it to everybody else, but I forgot what I actually needed. I need to be cared for too, but it starts with me and how I care for myself. And I'm preaching to my patients all the time about how important it is to eat healthy and exercise and, reduce your stress and all this stuff. But even just in the way that I was showing up in the clinic with my hours that I was working and, the stress I was under and trying to do it all, I'm like, I'm not actually practicing what I preach in this way. And I had to take a real pause and say, is this really what I want? And my health was declining. I was, stressed out. I had Hashimoto's symptoms and my gut was a mess. I did all the tests, all the protocols, everything that I could, took all the supplements. And I'm like, why am I not getting better too? Like, this is what I know by science, like helps people. So why am I not getting better? I'm the one that's helping others. And then I had to realize that I needed to slow down. I needed to calm my nervous system. I needed to take a break. I needed to get out in nature, and I needed to listen because my body was screaming at me in all the ways it knew how. And finally I listened. And, I don't recommend this to everybody, but, I quit my job. I decided to go a different path. And I also knew that there was another part of me that wanted to come forward, the creative side, the part of me that cared about the mindset piece. And I was fascinated by energy and still in the realm of healing, but just in a different way. And I trusted that there was another way for me. And I was meant to, utilize my gifts that might not have looked the way my classmates did it. And I had to be okay with that. And the more I kept leaning into what was right for me, and working on myself, the healthier I became. The more my gut improved, I lost inflammation weight. My skin started to glow again. I had a zest for life. I was kinder to myself and my friends and my family and all this stuff. And I'm like, there's something to this. and when I studied NLP, it all started to make sense. And I was like, oh,
that's it. Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah, you and I have a very similar story there. Once I found functional medicine, I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing in family practice. And I always loved and connected with my patients. So that part felt good. But once I learned functional medicine and I was like, well, this is really what I love to do. And I remember I had to tell all my coworkers, the other physicians in the practice, and what were they going to think about me? And she's going to go do that woo-woo functional medicine thing, and it was like, okay, this is actually, at that point, it didn't matter because my soul, my intuition was telling me, like, I had no doubt anymore. Like, I just knew what I had to do. And, so I do think we need a disclaimer on this episode. Like, we're not telling you to quit your job.
No.
We just both happened to leave our jobs and switch gears. But there's for everybody, it's not their job. But something in life that you've been doing because you thought you should, or that's what good girls do, or whatever, that, just looking at that for yourself, and does that fit for you? Does that feel good to you? I really like that. Can you tell us a little bit, maybe a couple more examples, or what are some of the other stories that women carry that really actually aren't theirs?
Yeah. So often what I will see with my clients is like, the big one is there's something wrong with me, or, I'm not worthy. And sometimes it can even go as deep as I'm not worthy of God's love.
Ooh.
And that one is deep. And once somebody releases that, though, I mean, imagine what then gets uncovered, what gets unlocked. And oftentimes that can come from years of, just from doing exactly what we've talked about, just suppressing your needs, suppressing your desires. And It could be small. It could be the smallest things of like, I really wanted to eat some pizza, but I shamed myself into eating a salad. And it could be something as simple as that. Or it could be something as big as, I stayed in a relationship longer than I really should have. And I was, emotionally abused or physically abused. And how was I allowing that to happen? Oh, well, I had a belief that I deserved that because of whatever reason. So I find that with no matter what the story is, at the core of it is it's a self evaluation or self devaluation wound, which is there's something that has triggered and created the belief that there is something either wrong with you or that you're not worthy of making those decisions for yourself. And so I notice how that actually leads to a lot of autoimmune disease. And we know that autoimmune disease is a highly inflammatory condition, but in more of an or creating the inflammation from self. But sometimes that can be related to, Epstein-Barr virus. There's other mold, the toxicities. There's other co-infections, bacteria, things like that for sure. Or genetics play a role. I mean, there's a lot of things that play a role in disease. But if somebody has done all the things to support their body on the physical level and they're still struggling, and it's like, gosh, like I just can't seem to shake this, it's usually because there's an issue on the emotional, mental, energetic level. And so when you then address those things by releasing those unconscious beliefs of I'm not worthy or there's something wrong with me, for example, then that starts to resolve itself on its own because the root got pulled. And Hashimoto's actually thyroid issues is interesting. It's more related to if you're going too fast or too slow with your life, or you think that you're not catching up with the speed at which you should be going in your life. Because we know the thyroid is responsible for hormones and temperature regulation and metabolism, things like that. So it's interesting how the unconscious programs will manifest through the physical body in ways that make sense. Like how they say the GI tract is the mirror of the emotions. It's really interesting. Does this answer your question? I feel like I started
Yeah.
going in a
Yeah,
tangent there.
this is great.
Okay.
This is great. Well, we're learning from all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone listening is saying, I honestly don't know how to trust myself anymore, where do you recommend that they start? What's the smallest way to start to reconnect?
Yeah. So, take a pause, slow down, and connect with your body. And I have a 4-step trust your gut decision framework actually that I teach all my clients and share on social media and stuff that can help if you're stuck on making a
I
decision
love
for
that.
yourself. And so it's pretty simple. And first step is to, you pause, take a deep breath, connect with the body, check in with yourself. You can place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and just ask, what does a yes feel like? So first step is calibration. So what does a yes really feel like in my body? And just trust, ask your unconscious mind to reveal it to you, ask your body to show you, because your body will, and just feel into that. And, oftentimes that's chest will expand or your muscles will relax or you'll feel calm or at ease, for example. And once you have that, okay, that's what a yes feels like, then go back to neutral. And then, okay, well, what does a no feel like now? And just see what that feels like, see how it's different, see how it's maybe similar. And maybe it's the shoulders start to come in a little bit or the chest, contracts, the breathing gets more shallow, you feel a little bit more contraction, anxious. For example, those are possibilities. And so once you have step 1 is the calibration, know your yes and your no in the now moment. Step 2 is ask the right question. So instead of should I do this or this, it's ask your higher self. Is it in my higher self's best interest to choose option A? And then feel into your body. Does it feel like more like the yes or the no? And then ask yourself, is it in my higher self's best interest to choose option B? And okay, feel into that, yes or no. And then whichever answer leaned more towards the yes feeling, just choose that. Step 3, choose the yes. And step 4 is once you've chosen the yes, act upon it, and then get the feedback. How did it go? What happened when you chose the yes? And then adjust if you need to. And so I recommend practicing this with the small stakes decisions. And this is where self-trust becomes a skill. And it actually can be grounded into the physical realm rather than just this thing that's, put out there, oh, trust yourself.
Sure.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So it's something you actually can ground, practical skill you can learn and build over time. And so practice it on those small things like, do I want pancakes or waffles for breakfast? And you can play around with the question like, is it in my higher self's best interest for my health to have a steak or to have beans, like for example. So you can have fun with it, it doesn't have to be so serious. And also
Sure.
know that just trust that whatever happens, whatever the outcome is of what you choose, you'll be okay. And that also takes some of the pressure off of trying to get it right, trying to get the right answer. And definitely do this before you decide if you want to quit your job or stay in the relationship or not.
That's
or,
not the first place
move
to try
cross
this one,
country.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But, feel into it. The more you practice, the more you'll get in tune with your intuition and where it lives in your body, how your body's communicating with you. And I have a whole program teaching how to do exactly this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What do you wish that every woman believed about herself?
I wish that every woman believed that there is nothing wrong with her. There is nothing fundamentally wrong with her. And she's not broken. There's nothing needing to be fixed. And even if she's made mistakes or not chosen, herself in certain situations, it's okay. It's all a learning experience. And she does deserve to have the life of her dreams. And it is absolutely possible for her. She just has to believe it for herself. So that's what I would say.
That.
I wish that
I
for
love
everyone.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Think about a world where everyone believes that for themselves. I love it.
Pretty powerful.
Yes, yes. So I'm curious, just like maybe what does working with you look like? Like what's a session? I'm envisioning maybe it's a little bit like a counseling session, but I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's similar. So if I'm working with someone one-on-one, I often start with a breakthrough session. So a breakthrough session is actually an 8-hour process. And so it's split into 2 days, 4 hours each. We have breaks, get up, get a glass of water, go to the bathroom, eat food, things like that. And so the whole process, and the reason why I do that is because we are lighting up all the baggage. We're bringing it all to the table. And this is important because if I were to start one-on-one working with somebody like an hour here, an hour there, I might be meeting them in their story, not in their truth. The baggage might be what's telling me what's going on, but I want to hear what's actually deeper than that. And so there's actually 4 steps for change, 4 requisites for change. Number 1 is to do the release work. It's to release the baggage, let go of those beliefs, allow yourself to feel and release emotions that are wanting to be felt or hadn't had the chance to. So that's step 1. Step 2 is setting your goals. It's actually having a clear place to move forward. So you got to release to know where you're going, because otherwise your map is directed based off of the baggage. And then step 3 is to actually just take action. But it's hard to take action if you have baggage preventing you from moving forward. And if you don't know where you're going, then you can't take action. So that's step 3. Step 4 is maintaining that positive mentality, fully believing that it is possible for you to have the life that you want, to be the person you're meant to be, have the things, do the things, all of that. So that's why I start with the breakthrough session, and that's what I've learned in my NLP master practitioner training. They're very adamant on that. Sure, I can do like little release work here or there, a smaller session where we just target like one belief or a little bit of baggage, but to be very comprehensive, I found this creates the most success for somebody that I'm working with. And then after that, we do follow-up calls to really get clear on what they want in life and do any extra release work if needed and support the integration. And if they're working on health, maybe doing some other things to support that too and kind of be that accountability partner as well.
Okay.
So
great.
Is that clear?
Yes. Yes. So tell me, like, can you give us a client example of somebody that had a breakthrough session and what they came in with and how it was let go of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I said, I mostly work with women who are struggling with these things that we've talked about. And I actually worked with a client who's a doctor, and she, is very similar to like myself. She was, doing all this stuff, doing so much outsourcing, always taking care of everybody else, that kind of savior mentality as well, or persona. And so she came to me, she's like, Katie, I love my job. I love my patients. I love what I do. I love my family. I love my friends, but I got no time for me. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. I mean, you're listening to everybody else. And she would tell me how people would even say to her, all right, we're going to go do this. You're coming with us. Or tomorrow night we're going to this place and this is what we're going to do. You're coming, right? They would tell her, and she didn't have the strength in her. She would, there were beliefs in the way that she just went with it, even if she was exhausted, even if she didn't want to actually go. And so she's struggling with that. And she's like, Katie, I can't keep living this way, but I don't know what else to do. So we worked together. We did the breakthrough session, and there were some other things too that came up working together. But her core belief was that she didn't trust herself. She didn't realize that she was worthy of being able to say no to these things because she was afraid of what would happen or being seen as a bad person. And she had a negative belief around how she would be perceived by others through honoring herself and her truth. And it actually made her a bad person to take care of herself. Wow. And so if she had this belief that she carried, if she hadn't let it go, how much longer would she be constantly outsourcing what she feels is actually best for herself and ignoring that? So I found that was, controlling her life in many ways, in her personal life, in her career, and her family. She completely took care of her parents all the time. It's her son. There was so much that she was doing. And so we released the beliefs. And afterwards, she's like, Katie, I just had an incident in my work where someone was mistreating me. And I actually told the higher up and we got it taken care of. And I stood my ground. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And and she even was like, I set limits on my WhatsApp so people can only message me at this time to this time. So when I say I'm done, I'm unplugged. She's going on walks more. She's out in her garden more. She just took a vacation with her son. They went to a beautiful coastal town, and she's just like, wow, I've always wanted to do these things, but I haven't allowed myself to because I was afraid that it made me a bad person to just take care of myself, because she was afraid of the judgment of others putting that on her of, oh, well, aren't you going to show up for me in this way or this way or this way? Wow. And so it was amazing what could shift in such a short period of time. And this is in a matter of weeks, we're talking, not years. Yeah. And that's just one example of someone I've worked with. Another girl that I worked with, she similar, a lot of it's very much about worth. Another girl was having panic attacks, and she was really struggling mentally, and she was afraid to go to the grocery store and ask somebody for help. And once we released the beliefs, she's like, Katie, oh my gosh, I just went to Trader Joe's. And she's like, I asked the person who worked there if they had something I wanted, and they got it for me. And nothing bad happened. Wow. And it almost sounds silly to see how small these shifts are, but how impactful that can be for somebody who lives in a state of fear if something is preventing them from participating in life. Mm-hmm. And how that anxiety was keeping her at home and preventing her from putting her art out there and doing all the things that she really loves. And so it's amazing how when we release these things, how much more of our life we get back and how much more access we have to ourselves and to the things we love.
That's
and
awesome.
Freedom.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good. Keep doing the work you're doing. I love it.
Thank you.
So where can our listeners learn more about you and maybe follow you on social media, or if they want to work with you directly?
Yeah, so we could put all the links in the description below. My website, sunnysidekt.com. That's where I have most information about myself. Same thing with Instagram. Right now it's by Katie Ruffino. And right now I have my Food as Feedback course, which I actually utilize food as the first step towards building self-trust, because food is the place that self-trust often gets broken down with labeling, good or bad foods, things like that, and our relationship with ourself that then gets revealed through our relationship with food. So I have a course with that. And then I also have my Trust Your Gut Collective group program, where it's more of a mentorship to uncover those deeper things and put it into practice, and then one-on-one coaching too.
Okay. Amazing. We'll put all those links in the show notes. So, thank you, Katie. And my last question is if, this is the Push Pause to Heal podcast. And
Yep.
so I would love to know what's your favorite way of pushing pause for yourself?
I feel like the simple answer is just to take some breaths and pause and listen to myself. But actually, one way I love to do that is through cacao, drinking cacao, ceremonial grade. It helps me
Wow.
get into my heart. And
Okay.
cacao is vasodilative. It helps, the active compounds theobromine, which helps to open up the heart. And I feel that when I drink it, I feel very grounded. And I feel like I'm connected to my heart and can now make decisions from that place as well.
Wow. Okay, that's a new answer for our podcast. So, where does somebody get like therapeutic grade, or is that what you said? Therapeutic
Ceremonial grade.
ceremonial grade
So
cacao.
I love the company Cacao Lab. They're based out of Kingston, New York, and I think I have a link for a discount code in my link tree in my Instagram.
Okay.
But I could give you the link for that for your
Yeah.
listeners. But I love their cacao. I've had a couple different versions of cacao from Costa Rica, Ethiopia, Guatemala, all these different places, and that one, for some reason, the taste is really, really nice. And I also love the feeling. I feel very connected to it. This is a whole probably other topic, but cacao is something that I actually deepened me into my relationship with myself and also through community through doing cacao ceremonies with
I
others
love
and
that.
helps to break down the barriers we set against ourselves and others.
Yeah, I love that. I think a warm mug of something can
Mm-hmm,
be a good way to connect with ourselves. I love the idea
mm-hmm,
of cacao. If and I will put that link in the notes as well. But slowing down to just hold a mug of anything nourishing,
mm-hmm.
right? An herbal tea or
Yeah,
bone broth or something that just kind of sit with that and like let it be a little ritual. I love that.
yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So, well, thank you so much, Katie. If today's podcast has resonated with you, please help us share the power of tuning back in to learn to trust your gut and help us spread this healing message that Katie and I are trying to share with the world by sharing this episode. So, thank you for your time today, Katie, and we would love to have you back sometime.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.